I'm your host, and today we're going to embark on a journey into gaming history. Buckle up, because today we're diving deep into video game consoles. In today's episode, we scoured the universe to come to you with our top 4 video game consoles ever. In today's special edition, we've scoured the planet to find your top 4 video game consoles. Those video games that made us laugh, cry, and even rage quit. From the classics that defined our childhood to the sleek powerhouses that run video game industry today. We've painstakingly curated a list that will start a new console war. Getting started, you don't want to miss our top 4 and nothing more. All right, gaming aficionados, don't forget, comment below and let's see who has the best mountain. Let's get it.
Welcome to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more. Kirk, it is Zoom into June, week 2. We had a great week last week talking about GameCube. We're going to kind of give you we went really specific last week with GameCube. We're going to go broad this week with our topic, talking about our Rushmore of gaming systems. Like, this is a really big one. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. I have a feeling there's a lot of Crushmores today. Benjamins are going to go away quick, and that's really where I'm nervous. So, Kirk, how are you feeling about Zoom into June? How are you feeling about today's episode?
Well, yeah, this is probably the number 1 video game one that we should have done way back last year. Started us all off to figure out what systems do we actually like before we do the games. But we have some great guests this week that are going to help us kick this off and kind of get us all right it back. And there's a lot of really good franchises. There's a lot of really good video game systems, consoles, whatever. I've got a few of them back here behind me. Got the games going. Me and Cannon actually just recorded, by the way, Retro Cannon episode today. So yeah, it's summertime, so we're gonna kick in that off. He did Pac-Man today. He wanted to start off real. Yeah, we're gonna do Pac-Man. We're gonna follow this retro gaming book. Right, and the number 1 game on it was Pac-Man. So we're gonna follow through it and kind of do that. But man, game systems, man, we could go really retro, we can go really back far, or all the new stuff that's happening now. So it really depends on who's watching the show, how old they are, what they've done in their gaming. Right, I see a whole bunch of controllers and stuff back behind you. That to me is one of the main things about picking a video game, man, is those controllers. Those controllers are very big. So some of them are actually kind of small, but
very large, like big importance, and also big in how much space they take up. Yeah. I think that this is going to be a great episode. Like you said, it should have been one of the early ones, but it doesn't matter. That's how we do things here. We make our own rules. It's like Outback of YouTube.
Let's go out back tonight.
Hey, look, if you've watched enough of the Rushmore Show,
this is episode 76, by the way.
Right? Yeah, episode 76 happening. And but if you watch enough of it, we talk about video games quite a bit, even not in June and just in normal conversation. And I've played my cards pretty clearly over time. So
I mean, I think you like Sega pretty. Yeah, I think you like the Segas, and I think PlayStation. You're going to name out some of those.
ColecoVision, a lot of fun.
ColecoVision.
No, anyway, let's not waste any more time. Let's just get to the fun part, the part you're all waiting for, man. Let's get to the Rushmore of gaming systems.
Rushmore Show. It is time for video game systems, or consoles, if you want to call them that. Yeah, we're gonna go through kind of a bit of history in video games today, and what better way than bringing on some good friends that spend a lot of time delving into 15 years or more ago, right? So they like to hang out in the past. And these guys I met through our friends that were on here 2 weeks ago, Geek Devotions. They did a tournament, if you will, on their Facebook of all these different creators. And I started following like everyone they were putting because I love what Geek Devotions does. And these guys, I think, went really far in the tournament. And I remember voting for them. I just messaged them the other day. I watch half of these guys every single week or so, and I love the other half. But we were on their show back in December, and they were on ours. So we're going to welcome back our good friends from the Retro Rewind podcast. Please welcome to the show Francisco and Paul. Welcome back, guys.
What's up, fellas?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
So
How's
glad
it
to be
going?
back.
Man, it has been awesome, dude. Tell me a little bit about you guys, what our viewers can find in your creator worlds, and at pauljpowers.com.
That's
and
me.
All the other things that you guys do. And then we'll get started.
All right.
Oh, sorry. I need to pause my game. Hold on.
Right.
Francisco is playing.
Yeah,
Make sure you put in the
Games as-
Konami code.
exactly.
Yeah.
Up, down, left, right, BA. Sorry.
All right.
I am pauljpowers.com. You can find me and everything that I'm doing at pauljpowers.com, including the Retro Rewind podcast, where if you're listening now, things are about to get scary.
Yes. That is one way to put it. Yeah, I'm Francisco Ruiz. I am co-host with Paul, the Retro Rewind podcast. And you can check out our episodes reviewing movies and games that are 15 years or older at retrorewindpodcast.com. And like Kirk sort of alluded to, I also stream at pretty much all the places: YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. All those are Retro Rewind Pod.
I love that. I always log in and see you go up on Facebook, and then I click on it and I say hello, and then I realize half of the people visiting are seeing me through the Botsimo, and I'm like, let me just go fly over here and go to Twitch and actually be a part of the community. So if you really want to be a part of the community, Twitch is the best spot to be with him.
So far, yes.
All those things that he's doing. Hey, and then you've got your website, your space that kind of lets everybody know. Tell them about that.
MySpace.
Oh, yes. MySpace. Who are your top friends there, right?
Well,
in MySpace?
Right.
Who makes the list? No, but you guys have some blogging and some other things that are going on in as
fact,
well.
we can find the Rushmore at the site.
Yes, you guys wrote a top 4 mentors,
Mr. Miyagi,
by Miyagi. Yeah, so we have
fun.
some articles, but that's all also at retrorewindpodcast.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you are a part of a couple other people in the Culture Box.
Yeah.
What's Culture Box?
So Culture Box, thank you. I appreciate all these lead-ins, Kirk. That's really helpful. So Culture Box is a collection of other primarily podcasts where we sort of are in the silos of story, comedy, and geekery. So if you're looking for, let's say, podcast where they do actual play, tabletop role-playing games, that's like you're playing games with strangers. If you want something that's just like geeky and very Christ-focused, that's like Geek Devotions that you just mentioned, Kirk. If you are into animation. You go check out the Cellcast. They review movies.
Which they're
and
going to
TV
be on our
shows.
show in about a month or so, I
Oh,
think.
fantastic.
We can figure that out for
Nice.
those guys.
Yes. So you always tell them, though, that if they're not, if they're reviewing movies, 3.5 is the supreme rating.
That's a deep cut. Don't bother listening to that.
All right. So look, today on our show, Paul, you're going to lead us off. Francisco will go second today. And then as the hosts, I will go first and Andy will go second. So today we are talking about video game consoles. And Francisco, I watch you play a couple video games every week. And so I know you love this. And Paul, tell us a little bit about your kind of following in video games, your love of what that may be, and then what you were thinking as you were putting that together. And we'll kick off the show with our Rosie with you.
So starting off, my background in video games, as a young boy, my parents had the Atari 2600, enjoyed some games on that. And I played video games basically until about college, where I didn't play as much because, school is important. And then like paying bills is important. And, so I consider myself a gamer in the old school sense, but like the modern stuff I don't really do. So you'll see on a lot on my mountain, it's a little older, it's a little more focused in a certain area of the kind of games that I like to play. So
yeah,
my Rosie is my number 4 is actually a 3, and that's the Nintendo 3DS.
Oh,
wish it was number 3, but the system that I really enjoyed, the 3DS was my last system that I played. It's portable, color, and it's in 3D. You don't need glasses. It's this technology that's wonderful. Like you can actually adjust the 3D setting on it and make it 2D or 3D. It even took photos in 3D. Now I think you needed the 3DS in order to view the photos in 3D, but you can view them in 2D. But they had the latest games, like, if you're into the Nintendo, they had the latest Marios. They came out with the new Super Mario Brothers 3D, and all the latest games at that time came out with that. It had the new Zelda, the new Mario Kart, all that stuff. It was backwards compatible to a point through the Nintendo shop. It didn't have all the games in it, but so one of the criterias for my mountain is that I've had to play it like enough and the wide variety of games to choose from. A lot of wide variety of what I consider good games.
So I never actually owned a 3DS. I did have a DS, which here it is still hanging out. 3DS took it even a little couple steps further and added the 3D technology, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I do love these games. This is probably the last portable system before purchasing a Switch, which a Switch is like the only newer system that we own. But this is the last kind of portable. And I remember as a, not necessarily a college student, but like right past my college years, this was kind of always in my car or whatever, playing at certain different spaces, depending on the game.
It was nice and portable.
But I never actually had the 3. Yeah.
Easily fits in your pocket.
That's another thing. It is very portable.
Yeah. The original Game Boy, I mean, you had to have big pockets, but this one is very easy to port. It's very portable.
Did you have a favorite game on the DS, Paul?
Yeah.
On the 3DS is probably the new Mario Brothers.
Oh,
the 3D Mario Brothers. Because they took that. One. Yeah. And they, it's the side scrolling that I like, but it's in the 3D graphics and there's lots of coins and lots of different sub games. So, yeah.
So, I mean, that's a whole nother show, but I think that is a big point. What types of games you like usually some of our viewers might choose those types of systems because
exactly.
Some are much more stronger on what you said, side scrolling, adventure type games, platformers.
Yeah.
And I feel Nintendo, most of them actually do that pretty well, and so 3DS is a good choice. Andy, did you have any experience with 3DS?
So it's interesting because I told you guys I play my cards, and I'm not a secret Nintendo fan. And let's just say it's very clear that I'm a big Nintendo fan, but the 3DS is kind of a blind spot for me, to be honest with you.
Same here.
It's not that I haven't played it. I have, but like to your criteria, I don't think I've played it enough for it to make my list. I appreciate it. It was fun when I played it. I never owned one. I had like friends that had them, or things like that, and it was cool. But I mean, everything you said, yeah, obviously. I'll talk about it when I get to mine. Why I love Nintendo so much. I'll just leave it. So good stuff.
The question is which Nintendo. So stick around, folks.
If you're an A's mom, everything's Nintendo. So.
As I said, as the lead-in, PlayStation, Sega, I mean, it was a little tongue-in-cheek. He talks Nintendo for 75 shows now. So I'll be surprised he ventures out of that space. So,
right.
Hey, Francisco, you're up, man. So Rosie, tell me a little bit your kind of experience video game-wise, and then tell us what you were thinking on your criteria. And drop number 1 on.
So similar to Paul, I have this one memory of playing a game that's like Western. I always, whenever I care enough, I'll look it up and remember, okay, oh yeah, that's the game I played on the Atari 2600, which was, I consider my official first game, the first one I have a memory of. But really what started off my official gaming is the NES. We had Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, this one shoot 'em up called Tiger Heli. So Nintendo most of my life until college, and then shift happened. But I'll leave that for maybe later. But for my mountain, what I decided how to categorize this was I had to have played the system. I preferably had a great collection of games, though that was less a concern. But I thought it was important to me to pick systems that had some sort of lasting impact or legacy on the systems that would come after them. So that's why I picked the ones I picked. And though I will say this first one doesn't really fit that criteria so well, but it's a favorite of mine. My Rosie is the Game Boy
Advance.
There you go.
So
nice.
Yes, nice. Game Boy. This is my original. My wife has a modded one with the backlit screen and everything, but this is my original one. Yeah, I was a fan of the Game Boy, but and even the Game Boy Color, I know had a colored screen, but the pixel density on the Game Boy Advance and the ability for it to still play Game Boy games
backwards
compatibility. So you had a huge library of games. And I mean, the game that sent out the most for me on this was Golden Sun, which is an RPG.
Oh, that's right there.
I love Golden Sun. I'd love to get a cart of it. But yeah, the Game Boy Advance is my Rosie. That's what's on my mountain to start.
Yeah, it's on my Benji.
Okay, so now you more because you got to cross it off.
Great pick. I love all the games. Of course, the backwards. You could play Game Boy games on there. That's always a great feature to have there. This was another one like I definitely played the Game Boy Advance more than I did the 3DS. But it was still not one that I owned or I had one of these. So it was but I like it. I like the games. Looking back, I just pulled up a list of the games just to go back down, the Metroid games on there. Of course, there's just one of
this Castlevania game.
Castlevania is what I was about to say. Yeah.
Oh, is that Circle of the Moon or is that one of the other ones?
No, that's is it Aria of
Dissonance?
Yeah, I can't read it.
This
game is small. It's much like Symphony of the Night. It plays. That's that Metroidvania type.
Yeah.
But there you go, Francisco, right there.
Nice.
Golden Sun.
Golden
Sun.
Another great game series on Game Boy Advance was Mega Man Zero. I love Mega Man X. I'm sorry, my Mega Man X.
Nice.
A Street Fighter crossover.
Nice. I love this system. Just fun fact, this system is the system that I brought with me when I got deployed overseas.
Oh,
So
wow.
I remember playing Golden Sun
Yes.
and this Castlevania quite a bit in the airport, like going to Iraq and all the other places. When I was a military guy when I was playing this thing. I've actually tried to buy different things to get this thing started, and it'll play for a half a second, and then it just moves out. So yeah, I kind of thought maybe I get a new one and play them, but it's one of those things, you know. I do love these games. Pretty much all the games I have, I purchased because I was in that kind of traveling mode, and I was still young and single at the time. So this is one of my Benjamins for sure. This is definitely one of my Benjamins that I'm taking off my list. And this is one of the things I was worried about. You're starting to name off systems that aren't in my top 4, which means you're starting to get to a spot. I'll jump into mine. So, history and video games for me. I love video games. Video games was my life all the way up until right about the time I was getting out the military. And that would have been 2004-ish. So at that point, I would have been 23, 24. Well, I would have been 26 at that time at 2004. But all the way up until that point, I was very deep in video games. Started my journey started early on with the 2600 as well. Joystick. One of my favorite games was I think it was called Demon Quest or whatever. It was kind of like a Space Invaders with these like bats and demons and stuff that you would shoot, but you know, the pitfalls and the Pac-Mans and the combats and all that. But Nintendo Entertainment Center, purchased that right off the bat. I remember it coming home, and my love just kind of took off from there. And
once bitten, you got the bug.
There you go. There you go. So kind of went through, and I collected systems and games all the way up. And if I'm being honest, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360 was kind of that generational timeline that I drew the line. You said, Paul, you were at the 3DS time frame. I was there at that 360. So I never got a PS3, 4, 5, Xbox One, and the $1,000 systems that have done past that. And also, computer gaming wasn't never really a thing for me. I played a little bit. I dabbled just a bit, but I never liked the whole keyboard thing. Right. And so,
the
you know, and then of course
weren't for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I liked consoles a lot. And as you're going to see in my list today, I am very biased as well, Andy, in some spaces, and you'll see. My first one, I'm going to go with the system that I had graduating high school, first years of college. I remember this one coming with me along with a couple others. This was my number one, my go-to system then. This would have been 1996, right? And I grabbed a few of their best titles, but probably the launch title, Crash Bandicoot. I'm going PlayStation 1, PS1,
nice.
Right? Ready to Rumble Boxing. We talked about this last year, Andy. But look, the reason I really love this one is because I'm a role-playing guy. Yes. I love role-playing games. And
bring Chrono Trigger into this.
I'm going Final Fantasies. I'm going in this world here. That's 7, 8, 9. And of course, the original Resident Evil and Castlevania on PlayStation. These are some of the best ones, but I love this system. It brings back nostalgia for me. When you were about to play the sound, I was like, is he going to play the PlayStation? PlayStation 1 for me, I talked about the controller. It's my favorite controller of all controllers. It's one of the reasons I like PlayStation more than Xbox usually.
It's a
the
solid
controller.
controller.
I started with that one, and then it went DualShock, went to all those things.
Oh yeah.
Matt, funny story, Canon. We got the RetroPie. You can basically get any USB controller to connect. Mine's a PlayStation. His is an Xbox. He wants an Xbox controller. So so I play with the PlayStation. But anyways, PlayStation 1 is gonna be my Rosie right off the bat.
I am a fan of this pick. You took it off my Benjamins because absolutely you can't get through this list. I'm surprised it's Rosie. You do talk about PlayStation quite often. So that's definitely a good pick. I always think when I think PlayStation, I don't know why, I'm always Tomb Raider. That's always where
great game.
Tomb Raider, Lara Croft. I mean, anyway, great.
So I went digging through my PlayStation games to try and find which ones that I wanted. And there was a time in my life, unfortunately, where I sold off a lot of stuff. And so the things like Tomb Raider and a few of those were kind of in that time when I'm about to get married, start a family. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this. And then my better judgment got to me after I sold about half of them and said, no, we're going to keep the rest. And so there's some that are gone. Tomb Raiders would be one of them. Spyros and several other. Oh man,
gosh, I love that game so much.
Yeah, Parappa the Rappa. I mean, come on. Yeah, so those are that'll be my Rosie, man. I'm laying a great foundation. It was my hardest one was this one, honestly, because there was one other system that I wanted to put in here. And so it's probably be my first Benjamin if you guys don't take it.
The Commodore 64. Yeah, I get it.
I showed my cards on the computer. I'm not pulling any computers out.
It's funny when I think of PlayStation 1, I think of pixelated low polygons, but that's me.
Yeah, and it is.
Well, you have to play on a CRT, Paul.
Well, and there were some good games despite the early graphics of those days. Yeah.
All right, Andy. So Rosie,
a little bit of criteria. I had to have not only played this, but I had to have owned this system. Like this was in my house. And then B, this, we talk retro, we talk nostalgia. Nostalgia is one of our favorite words and places to be. I have to want to go back and play these systems today, no matter how old and outdated they are. Again, we kind of jokingly talk about PS1 graphics and of course, like compared to today, but at the time we're like, what in the world is happening? This is amazing. But regardless of how outdated the graphics may be, outdated some of the games and like the pop culture, whatever references, and it may be, I still have to want to go back and play these things.
Sure.
So really those are the two things for me. And again, it's no secret how much of a Nintendo fan I am. I will say that not 100% of my list is Nintendo. So
what?
I look, I know it's crazy stuff. 75% is though, but it's okay. It's not 100. And I'm going to start off. My Rosie was the first gaming system that I had that was mine that owned. Again, I'm a kid. I didn't buy it or anything. It was bought for me, but I had it. It was mine. And I'm going with the original Nintendo Game Boy. We're talking handheld devices. I'm going for the thick gray purple buttons. Dude, that's what I'm doing.
Monochromatic screen. Let's bring it.
Yeah, I loved it, man, because again, as a kid, like I've got this little, like now we've got the phone, right? We're holding this in our hand. Like this was what we had originally. But dude, I was going through my list of games that I loved playing on this system. And I'm just going to spit them off to you real quick. Obviously, the Pokemon games were one of my favorite games to play. All of those are great. And again, I'm talking original Game Boy, not this Game Boy Color, but even just the original black and white, just boom. Pokemon.
It's really kind of green, if I'm being honest. But
like olive, Tetris, Kirby's Dream Land, Donkey Kong, the original Mario with Donkey Kong, Wario Land. Dude, I played the mess out of Wario Land games. Mega Man, Castlevania, you got Dr. Mario, Looney Tunes, and this is a super obscure one that I don't think is I don't even think it comes up on lists. but I remember having the Rocky and Bullwinkle show
nice
game for the Game Boy. I played it so much. I remember going to school, like we had these events like after school thing, and we could bring, I don't remember what it was. I was like in daycare. I was super young, and I got to bring this, and I brought it, and all my friends are like, "What are you playing?" I'm like, "This is an awesome game, Rocky Bullwinkle."
But dude, hey, Rocky, watch me play this video game.
But the other ones, dude, NBA Jam, Donkey Kong Land, Mortal Kombat, Animaniacs, Road Rash, Primal Rage, dude, all of these games in the worst possible graphics. We want to talk about graphics. It is definitely not on my criteria that the graphics have to be state of the art. It was not meant for that, but it was personal, you handheld. And there's just something endearing about like getting carpal tunnel because the thing is so thick that you got to hold. They slimmed it down with the color and all of these other ones that we're talking about, but it is, it'd get hot after a while and you're like, put this thing off. But yeah, man. So my Rosie, my number one, my first game system I ever had is the original Game Boy.
Solid pick, because that's also that was on one of my Benjis, because that was the first game system that I bought with my own money, $90 Christmas money, saved up, got it.
Nice.
Spent countless hours watching these pixels move around and trying to find light at night, you know?
Yes. Where's the next lamppost?
Came out, like the attachment came.
The
magnifier. Yeah, the magnifier with the light.
That thing had more attachments than modern day computers.
So the funny thing is that this, if my mom and dad were alive, this would be their George. Because when I got this, they kept it playing Tetris in the recliner. They ran through battery after battery after battery playing Tetris. And it's so funny. They were not that great. I mean, at 50, 60, 70 level, whatever. And then I would come in and I'd be like 8 years old and I'd be like 150. I'm like, and I would tick them off. They would play the game nonstop. This would be definitely their George, or maybe one of those Gaben watches, But Tetris is. I'm surprised that wasn't the number one talked about. But I got an obscure one for you that I absolutely loved when on my and it's actually right over there. Was Gargoyle's Quest. Which was basically the gargoyle from Ghosts and Goblins.
That one.
Yeah, that guy, right? And I think his name was Hellbrand, if I remember correctly. But what a really cool game that was. The Mega Man, I love that one. It was very much like Mega Man 1, Mario Land. Those were my three go-tos when I was playing it. But man, that's a great system. I didn't pick it for several reasons. One, the batteries. Going through the like having to buy batteries every single time. All the attachments, although they sound cool, was a very big, like, oh gosh, like not be able to see. And then sometimes it was too bright, you can't see. I'm like, you have to be like
get the right
perfect angle, right? But I remember it being such an amazing thing when it came out to be able to hold those Nintendo games in your hand, basically. Yeah. Rosie, we're there, man. First set of systems. Nintendo's been mentioned. All three main handhelds before first generation handhelds have been mentioned.
All right, we have made it to the end of our Rosies. That means we are now to TJ, Jazzy, Jeff. What is next on your list, Paul? Where are you going for your next video game console?
All right, for my number 3, my TJ, my Tommy. I'm going to go with the classic NES, Nintendo Entertainment System.
Well done.
People talk about how the Atari just basically produced so many. People talk like they produced ET, which killed the entire video game industry. But it was actually the Atari people, they put out so many bad games. They completely destroyed the industry. This console brought it back with a vengeance, and it hasn't died since. Not only at the beginning, but even towards the end, after the Genesis, the Sega's 16-bit system. Well, this is 8, and even TurboGrafx 16 was pumping out their games. This thing was still beating them because their variety of games was just so much better on this little system. So for my Jazzy Jeff, number 3 is a classic Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a Nintendo system, Mom.
Yeah,
You know what I hate about the NES? It wasn't compatible with VCRs. I mean, like PlayStation could play CDs, the PlayStation 3 could play Blu-rays. Why couldn't I put my VHSs in that thing?
You could, but you wouldn't. You'd ruin your system.
This, you
That's
know,
on my
this multiple times probably. This is the classic. This, when you think this, when I see that remote, I can only hear bana, bana, bana. Like you can only hear classics. Like it's everything that's on there. But you know, there's other great ones on there, like Super Mario 2,
Right.
Super Mario 3. Great ones.
I have a feeling we're going to talk a lot about this one today, at least amongst the four of us. This system is to me, when you say video game systems, this is almost always the first one I'm going to think of.
Yeah.
And because it brings me right back to 1985, going back in time right here, 1985, 1986, under the Christmas tree for probably 4 or 5 years, I knew what that rectangle shaped present was. Right? Yeah. I knew, oh, is that going to be whatever the one I asked for? And Nintendo games. This is the one I had the most of. I have more. My whole bottom shelf down there is Nintendo cartridges. And the funny thing is, last week we were kind of talking about the collectors of this, and people are collecting video games nonstop. And the fact, some people, Andy, I don't know if you've seen this. I'm sure our guests have. People are selling these games in box, still sealed, for like thousands sometimes. Yeah. It's insane. And the funny thing is, I worked at KB Toys in my senior year, junior and senior year. Favorite place to be. And I remember walking down from KB, like halfway down the mall, and there was a retro video game place. And all that was in there were like old cartridges, because this was prior to the discs, prior to all that. And it was just row after row. And all the cartridges were like $3 a piece. Oh, and I'm sitting there thinking, I remember, and I would go in there and I would get like, 3 games for $10 or something like that. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, I should have bought the whole place. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Battletoads. I'm scrolling through this list.
Best pause screen.
There you go.
Battletoad.
I've got some good pause screens.
And one of the hardest games ever was Battletoads.
They made it impossible to beat on purpose.
I was just playing Lion King, which it rivals that, I guess. But yeah. All right, very man. Cool. Francisco, number 2 on your mountain, which is TJ Jazzy Jeff, number 3 on the list.
Yeah.
What is your number 3?
Time to crush more with the PlayStation 1. And I know this is not the original.
Let's go. Oh, that's the second or third generation one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have one. I need one.
Oh, a little quick story. Can I give a quick story, or do I just keep rushing? Yeah. So I bought this when me and Paul were roommates in an apartment in California, because I was going to get this. I was going to get a DDR pad and Dance Dance Revolution, and I was going to lose weight doing DDR. And the only place in our apartment that I felt the most stable doing, because we're on the second floor, was in the bathroom. So I set this up in the bathroom. I would do DDR in the bathroom. I got pretty good at it.
I wasn't a DDR guy, right? Or I had friends. Oh, we had Max on the show last year for arcade. Who would go to the arcade and play these games. And man, I was always like blown away watching them jump from pad to pad and do. I could
never do that. But the reason
I'm white too.
The reason the PlayStation 1 is on my TJ Jazzy Jeff is I had even though I feel like graphics of even like games like the NES tend to hold up a bit better compared to the low polygons of the PS1. I feel like it was such a cultural moment. Like I remember seeing like in Friends, and Joey and Chandler had a PS1, and they would love that, and it was so much in the zeitgeist of people, like that was the cool system to have. And me and my wife actually we're even talking earlier. She mentioned that, it was the first true competition to Nintendo. Like Sega, there were the console wars, but the PlayStation 1 was really what took a good slice out of Nintendo.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about PlayStation, which I didn't mention, was all the EA Sports games that had started, right? EA Sports. It's in the game, right?
Yeah.
So Madden and Triple Play and all of the NHLs and FIFA. I remember those starting to come out. And you're talking about the polygons, but playing sports games, and they start to actually get real faces, right? They start to get like, you're like starting to see some of your people on there. And the cool thing is not just the polygons, but the cinematic scenes in between. So like in Final Fantasy 7.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, so all the, like, that was what made Final Fantasy 7 was like those, and after a while you're like, okay, in order to call this guy, I got to spend 35 seconds watching him fly down here to kill somebody. Yeah. But those cinematic scenes were just so much better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Two games that one big one here that I go to is Soul Reaver. I don't know how much you played Soul Reaver. Legacy of Kain.
I never played it. I know of it.
So when you say
I love that game.
All that, like that's the game that I think of. Soul Reaver is one. And then also you mentioned Madden, but I remember I had a demo of Madden, and I don't remember the year that the Giants played the Ravens in the Super Bowl. This was like, 1996 or I don't know, something like that. I had that demo. You could play one quarter of football, and it was like a 5-minute quarter. So you like, if you play it good enough, you don't even get the ball. Like it was a bummer, but I remember playing that for whatever reason. But yeah, man, PlayStation 1, we've talked all about it. This is a great one, man.
Not all about, because no one has mentioned Metal Gear Solid. How is that the case? Because that was such a great game. Oh my gosh.
And Tony Hawk Pro Skaters started.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
I played that on something else we'll talk about later. I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm sure Andy's going to talk about Tony Hawk.
Oh, no, we might.
So anyways, let me jump into my TJ Jazzy Jeff, and I'm going to crush more with Paul. Nintendo Entertainment Center.
Where it's
I'm going with the NES, and look, I'm going my number one, Final Fantasy. Dude, this is what started my role-playing game journey. All the Mega Mans that I could possibly have, right? There's Mega Man 1, which was just extremely hard. You got the gold discs. There's nice. River City Ransom. Have you Metroid?
I've never played River City Ransom.
Oh my gosh. So River City Ransom, fun story is I 100%ed it, which took me a long time, which I have the 100% code that I went and got. The Ninja Gaidens, the Zeldas, the original Zeldas. Yeah. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, my favorite baseball game of all time, Baseball Stars, the Castlevanias.
That was a good one, yes.
I mean, they just go on and on. Here's the gold ones, my original gold ones with my name still on them. Look at that. As a little kid. Right? And this game, which Tecmo Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
This is the game. This is the reason I am a Kansas City Chiefs fan right here, is this game. And it's the original. All these are my original games. I haven't bought a Nintendo game that in quite some time, and most of these are from my childhood. Maybe almost. I did order a few. Like I wanted Karnov, and I didn't. I thought that game was so awesome, but it's not as good as I thought it was. Kid Niki, thought that was really awesome, but it's not as good as I thought it was.
A lot of those old games aren't as good as we thought they
were. Yeah. But you mentioned Konami Code. There you go. Boom. Yeah. Contra,
nice.
So Nintendo Entertainment Center. I remember this opening.
You keep saying Entertainment Center. I'm just trying to take it from soul.
System.
Nintendo Entertainment System. So Nintendo Entertainment System. But yes, the NES. I remember opening this Christmas present. I got this for Christmas, 1985, 86, whatever it was. And the original Mario Brothers Duck Hunt.
Yes.
Prior to having batteries in our remote in our games, you didn't. There was no password for Mario.
Right.
I could not beat Mario. I remember leaving it paused overnight, waking up in the morning, picking the controller up, and still playing the next level. Learning all the different codes, getting the Nintendo powers and the strategy guides to go and beat these games. This is where it all started for me. This is just my love of video games.
That's
And
awesome.
I have to have it on the list.
Shockingly,
it's not my number.
One of the hardest things is learning to jump without moving your hands with the controller.
Yeah, right?
Or like driving games are like, right. Yeah. But yeah, NES, man. And Francisco, you had been doing the SNES Quest and the NES journeys and all those things, and you're doing Sega Saga now. But that's one of the reasons I loved watching all those things that you're doing, because you play all these old games, and kind of tackling some of those, and it's kind of an inspiration for Ken, and he's doing the retro. But he's watched with me. He's like, "Oh, is that the retro guys?" And then you'll say like, "How's your son doing?" or whatever, and he's like, "Is he talking about me?" Like, it's kind of fun. But anyways, Nintendo, man, Nintendo, gotta have it.
Absolutely.
It's funny that you said Entertainment Center, because about the time that the NES was out, I think every family owned an Entertainment Center.
That's where it was.
Yeah. Like, with the glass door on this, I think everyone had the same one. So CD rack,
I remember actually asking for that to be a Christmas present. I need a entertainment center, right?
Wow.
All right, Andy. So, bro,
this is where I depart from what most people are going to think, and this is my top 5% of my list that is not a Nintendo system. You guys crushmored on one of these with the PlayStation 1, but I'm gonna take it a little newer. I'm gonna go to the PS2. My TJ Jazzy Jeff is the PlayStation 2, and here's the reason. I owned this one, right? I think I had a PlayStation 1 too, but I definitely played the PS2 way more than I did that one.
Better games.
Yeah. So, GTA, man, Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. We got the Madden games, right? Dude, I had Madden 2008 for the longest time. I mean, it was like 2014 and 15, and I'm still playing Madden 2008. Dude, Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia was a fantastic game I talked about last week. And then here we go. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Okay.
There it is.
God of War, Metal Gear Solid, right? Resident Evil, Kingdom Hearts, dude, all of these games for PS2. This was definitely the one that I played a ton of. This was actually for a while. I went to college, and this was the one video game system that I had, and I unfortunately spent more time in college than I should have because I had this system. I think spent a lot
of other people.
Yeah. So this was definitely there, dude. I PS2. I liked the look of it. The whole, the black console just looks, I guess looking back at it now, maybe it looks gaudy and just big and chunky and stuff, but compared to what they have now. But yeah, dude, this was where it was at, the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, you mentioned Madden. I have the Ray Lewis Collector's Edition 2005, right? With the sleeve. And I won. Check that out right there.
Woo! Somebody drew on that.
And so look, check this out. This I won at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, really?
At one of their game nights. But this was the last Madden that I had really played and purchased, and then but I loved Madden games, man. PS2, it's a great system. I mean, you mentioned all those are awesome games, and so much more. I'll just hold my thoughts because
more's coming.
Show my cards, but yeah, this is there. So.
Well, I won't, except for saying this was on my Benji's, but I never really played a PS2. I knew people that had it, but it was never something that was really on my radar to play. So,
yeah, same here. I was like, can we go play Mario Kart?
Gran Turismo? What is that? Yeah.
There's a good one right there, man.
I'll tell you what, the graphics were better, like in the racing games and such. Yeah, definitely. It's a great system.
There it is, man. We've made it now halfway through our mountains. We're
time. It is time for a console commercial. So we're going to find our best retro for our guests, our best retro gaming console commercials, and we'll be back in a few minutes. See you in a second.
Hi, Space Kids. Star Pilot Phillips here.
And Cosmo.
With our Phillips Video Pack TV game computer.
Jack Star Pilot, but the Phillips Video Pack isn't just the sappiest video games, it also makes music.
Real computer training.
And a real keyboard, real controls.
Cosmo, this Phillips Video Pack is so advanced, it's frightening.
That's because it's got the mind of a computer and the thrills of a star pilot.
Cosmo, Phillips want you to have the best.
Will it be you? Will your family be the first to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System? Will you be the first to see, to touch, to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot? He follows the commands you put on screen to help you tackle even the toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley? The first to build a library of game packs like Kung Fu and golf, even games like Excitebike that you program yourself. Will you be the first to get all this in one package? The Nintendo Entertainment System, where video technology is more than a game.
All right, Rushmore Show, welcome back to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top four and nothing more. If you have hung around with us this long, go ahead, drop in the comments your top four video game consoles. While you're there, I might as well hit the subscribe. We got all kinds of great video game content coming up. We do movies, we've done food, we do sports, we do everything. We got a little bit of something for everybody. And drop in the bottom how you found us. And so that would be a good start. And we're now, if this is your first time here, we're going into the second half of our mountain climbing the summit. We call this guy Link. I don't know. Link always has an opportunity to get a Zelda connection, and nobody ever does it. But number two, we're number two on the mountain. Paul, you're up first. Where are you going to go?
For my links, I wish it was the Atari links just to make it, too. But it's not. I'm gonna go continuing the Nintendo streak and going for the Nintendo Switch. It's what's out now. Do you
have a Switch, Paul?
Now this is one that I don't have, but I've played it. I played yours.
That's true. Okay.
But basically, I'm right there with Andrew. I'm a big Nintendo fan, and this has all the Nintendo, almost virtually all the Nintendo games you could ever want with the eStore. You can play them all basically. Not only that, it's portable, and you can hook it up to your TV. It's both non-portable and portable at the same time.
Yeah.
It's multiplayer. It's a game. It's another game changer in the step forward, I think, of video game consoles where it's both portable and not. I think Nintendo is hitting it out of the park in their evolution of game systems. And I think this makes sense with the next evolution. I wish I owned one, but could I own one? Absolutely. But I know myself better. It's too dangerous for me to own one.
Yeah.
This is a phenomenal pick. This was my Rosie fighting with Nintendo. I'm sorry. This was fighting with PlayStation. This is the one. Do I have it on? Do I not have it on? Do I have it on? Do I not have it on? This one is amazing. As you can see, it's right there, connected to that TV.
Yeah.
But we purchased it for my kids as like this is the next video game system that we can kind of have. And the reason that I really bought it was so that I could play Breath of the Wild. And now Tears of the Kingdom is banging. So that's why I got the Switch, was for Cannon and Carson. But really, I play it way more. I play it way more than they do. But yeah, that was a Christmas present for them. But yeah, I love this system. I love the idea that you mentioned the e-store. There's so many free games out there, cheap games. They have the Nintendo collection, the Super Nintendo collection, the 64 collection, and I think they're working on a GameCube and a Wii collection that they're trying to put together. Like it's just really awesome as far as the system goes, and the games are super small. That's the only thing I don't like about it. These games are so small. I always fear I'm going to lose them. Yeah. But they're very portable. You can bring like the whole house with you as far as games go, anywhere you want to go. And also the fact that the controllers come off and then you can multiplay and play with it. It's the technology is light years ahead of what most folks are doing. I love this system. Great pick. Yeah, you took my number 5, so now I'm stressing.
One of the reasons why I chose this as my number 2, Links, so you could play all the Links you want.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
Look, here's the thing, and again, not a shocker to anyone. Love Nintendo. Have I said that yet? I love Nintendo, but here's what I specifically.
Do you love Nintendo, Andy? I'm not.
Well, he's about to tell us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I'll be quiet.
One thing that I super love about the Nintendo, just everything that they do, is that they feel like they're the most out of the box, forward thinking in every component of their game. Like we talk about the Switch and how it can be portable, but it can also be plugged in. Just the controller itself. I said it last week. Dude, just look at my screen behind me. Everything's black and gray except Nintendo. Like they're just
and Dreamcast.
Dreamcast is there, but for the most part, like, dude, look at these. Like stand out, right?
They're playful.
They're playful. It's fun. They with the exception of maybe the Virtual Boy, like they're not afraid to take these risks that maybe
that was quite a risk.
That was a risk. But what I'm saying is, not all risks pay off, is what I'm saying.
Rob the robot.
But they're not afraid to do it. And I love Nintendo for this reason. And I love that you picked the Switch. I don't have one. I've played one before. And much like
played it at my house.
Yeah, much like you, Paul, I know myself too much to purchase one of those.
Great pick, Francisco. What's your link, man?
My link. Well, you guys, we're gonna keep the Nintendo train going because, and I had a prop. Oh, there it went. You were saying both, Andy, you and Paul were saying how Nintendo has this. Pushes like essentially gaming hardware forward. Sometimes they have a miss. Virtual Boy, Wii U, I think a lot of people would say is a miss, but they've pushed it forward, and they've been doing that pretty much since their inception. And one of the big leaps forward, the way that I think they really established a legacy, was with multiplayer games on the N64 and having 4 ports to play, whether it's GoldenEye or Smash Brothers or Super Mario Kart. I thought that was just such a game changer and so many fun games. I will say, no one ever gives Killer Instinct Gold love, so I'm going to give it right here. Killer Instinct Gold, you're a great fine game. Thank you for being on the N64.
Couldn't you play 4-player with Looney Tunes B-Ball on the Super Nintendo?
I mean, you need an extra adapter thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess you could.
Okay,
but it was built into the system.
Okay.
So this was stock. This came as stock. Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the Trident controller. I think it's a little wonky, but I got around. It was good enough for me to play Star Fox 64. Imagining I was Maverick playing against all my brothers in the R-Wing. So
yeah, we were all there. We put up with that controller.
Yeah. So I believe Andy has shown his cards on this one, and he just mentioned that he is nervous to purchase a Switch because he knows himself better. But he did purchase one of these very recently, and he just received a few of these games. I'm sure he'll talk about it later, but I just thought the irony. But Star Fox 64, Andy, didn't you beat it in like 35 seconds the other day?
Jeez.
Not that. He's being exaggerating a little bit, but I will say that it is a lot easier to beat than I remember as a child.
Okay.
I ran
Did you
through
figure out how to do a barrel roll? Is that why?
Yeah, you got to use the boost to get through, man.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
You
anyway.
remind me more of your father.
So we had a whole show on Nintendo 64 last year, and great
Check it out,
system,
folks.
Here's one of the reasons I don't have this one on my list. It's probably in the top 10, but this is one of the ones I didn't own. For whatever reason, I leapfrogged from this one to I was busy doing PlayStation, but I love this system. My buddy Ron Hoon, which I mentioned last year, we were in the dorms together. I had the PlayStation. He had the 64. I would go over to his house to play Smash Brothers and Gauntlet Legends and things like that. He'd come over to mine to play Final Fantasy and those. He'd say he had his little save on his mind. And so I played a lot of 64. I just didn't own it. And but I have played many of those games on the Switch, which you mentioned, Paul. Like, I finally beat those Zelda, one of the Zelda games, Ocarina or whichever one. And or Majora's Mask. But I beat that on the Switch, right?
Oh, okay.
I beat that on the Switch. And so I never actually owned it. So I couldn't feel that I needed to put this on there. But it is a phenomenal system. It is worthy of anybody's list. It's a lot of childhoods for 90s kids. So it's a phenomenal system.
I'm in the same bucket as you. I didn't own one either, but I beat a lot of the games on the 3DS that I had listed. I downloaded like Mario 64 and all the Legend of Zeldas, and it was cool playing in 3D. So, but I'm in the same. Yeah, there's some good games in there.
It's a great system.
Reserve my comments for a future.
Because you hate it. For some weird reason, you hate the N64. It's so
I don't really have a whole lot to say at this moment about this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to jump in my Link, and I am I'm going to have to talk about Link a little bit. Yes, because I'm bringing up my top two systems. To me, have the best two set of libraries as far as games go. I think they're a part of my childhood. They're a part of where I'm at. And I have to go with that system right there. The Super Nintendo, not the Wii. The Wii's right next to it. The Super Nintendo is my Link. And there it is, Link to the Past.
Nice.
Zelda. Now, Francisco, you were playing Secret of Mana for quite a bit. There's my Secret of Mana copy.
Yes.
And right inside of it, which I sent you a picture of this, I built my own strategy guide for that game. And it's still built inside of there. But
does your strategy guide tell us why the hitboxes are so bad in that game?
Yeah, their hitboxes are pretty awful. But Street Fighter 2, Castlevania, Super Mario World. Most underrated Super Nintendo game. It's on my list when we do SNES games. I can promise you. ActRaiser.
I've never played that. I always wanted to, but I never played it.
ActRaiser 1 has a side-scrolling element with kind of like a SimCity type element. The SimCities type element, you're God, or you're an angel. The side-scrolling, you complete quests. But ActRaiser 2, if I remember, I took away the God SimCity portion, which I didn't like. It was just the side-scrolling. And the side-scrolling is pretty easy. It's kind of like Altered Beast, if you will, like it kind of. But the graphics are phenomenal. The music is phenomenal. The controller to me is great. Super Mario World was groundbreaking after Mario 3, and kind of going to more of an open map and doing some of the things and fun. I love this system. I probably logged in more hours on Super Nintendo in any system that I have. Other than my George. But this is, I had to have, like, right off the bat, I knew this was on the list. I knew it was number 2. It to me, it is my childhood. All the games on there. The SNES quest that you did was my favorite, watching those, because that is, I mean, it's just like, man, game after game after game after game. It's Nintendo better, right?
Yeah,
and then, but stillness,
super power.
Yeah. Which hilariously, my Super Nintendo, let me show you. Super Power Club right there sticker from
Nice.
1990. Look how yellow that is.
I was about to say yours turned yellow too, huh?
Look how nice and yeah. But there you go, man. Super Nintendo.
Let me just say this. We're going to make more comments about that because I'm just going to go into mine real quick and we can continue to talk about it because I'm Crushmoring with you for my link with the Super Nintendo.
Nice.
This is the system you had to have. Like thank you. There's some
NBA Jam.
NBA Jam. He's on fire. Like, dude,
Yeah, from
downtown.
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah, dude. Here's another one that I love so much is Paperboy. I loved Boy game was fantastic. Yoshi's Island.
Yes.
Fun. F-Zero.
Yes.
F-Zero. What, oh yeah, absolutely.
That's Killer
Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct.
The Killer Groove.
Earthbound.
Killer Groove.
The Star Fox games. There.
Yes.
Dude, my favorite games of all time.
Gradius.
Let me just tell you this. My
Ooh,
favorite games of all time is Donkey Kong Country 1, 2,
Oh, wow.
3. I love
Great.
those games.
Yep.
I nerded out, found out all the secret barrels. I knew where to bash the baddies. I knew where to collect all the stars. I loved all of the Donkey Kong games.
That's awesome.
And something I didn't mention.
Talk about.
Final Fantasy 2, which is Final Fantasy 6 in Japan.
Final Fantasy 3,
3,
which is 6 in Japan. Yeah.
And then it was amazing, right? The Final Fantasy games on these were awesome, and that was that even elevated my RPG love even more. I ended up getting the collection in the PlayStation, which now I have.
Cool.
I also have the collection on Switch to play Kafka and all those guys.
Yes.
That too.
The shirt you're rocking right now, man. Super Mario Kart.
Super Mario Kart, yeah.
Man, this was a great one too. Like, I love.
Well, let's not go that far.
Well,
it started a great franchise.
Yeah,
I would say that.
Listen, going back, it is a
agree.
nostalgia one. It is a fun one. Mega Man X, all these other ones that I have listed. Super Metroid.
Tournament Fighters.
Boom. Yeah, All Stars. Yeah, that was going to say. Yeah, like you play all of them. There you go, right there. So that was anyway. This game is classic. Just a great game. I mean, I think you said Street Fighter. I played so much Street Fighter on this.
Right, I have Street Fighter Turbo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super Street Fighter 2 Alpha.
Yeah. There you go.
Is it Super Street Fighter 2 Alpha or just Street Fighter 2 Alpha?
It's the one I have is Street Fighter 2 Turbo. No Super.
Yeah, but Paul had Alpha. I had Super Street Fighter 2. Then Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo was on next gen systems after SNES. But
yeah,
well, it's on Super Nintendo, so therefore it's Super.
Oh
my God. Everything is Super. Super Earthbound. Super Paperboy.
Do not bring up
Earthbound.
And
in the official title, there's no Super.
Are you not a fan of Earthbound?
I look like I'm a fan of Earthbound.
Yeah,
I can't.
You look like one of the characters.
No,
it looks like Ness. It's Ness.
It took me over a year to beat Earthbound, so I was pretty done with it.
So Earthbound or Star Tropics?
That's hard. I guess Earthbound because Star Tropics didn't take.
Are we doing a Rushmore of the worst games?
I will. Yes.
Yeah. I know people there's tons of people that love Earthbound, and I'm not faulting them for it, but it is not a game made for Francisco Ruiz by any means.
I love Earthbound not because it's a good game. I like the nostalgia and the funny it's a whole experience. But anyways, it's not a great game. Which is funny because it's like the most expensive game out there.
Right.
You find an Earthbound copy, you're like you can send your kids to college. But anyways, man, Andy, great pick. We are at the George. Man, we are at the George. And I think we might have some Crushmore coming up. But
inevitable.
We'll have to see. It's inevitable.
There we go. We are at the George, number one. I'm dying to hear, Paul, what is your number one video game console of all time?
The number one video game console of all time for me is based on the performance and the wide library of games, and nothing beats the PC console. Because not only it literally plays everything. If you go into emulation,
you being serious right now?
I'm 100% serious. I'm not talking like, look, I'm not saying like, get your Commodore 64. It can play the PS2. No, I'm talking about it has a wide variety of games. It can play, not only can it play all the Xbox games, but it can play every single game. And if it doesn't play it yet, it will. Just give it time. And you can plug any controller into it. Like,
I'm going to count it because it came off of my Benjamins, and I was hoping no one would do it.
I would have put this on my list, but you said
who used it? Don't cry me a river. That's my Georgie.
Francisco, I'm glad this is the type of stuff Andy would do, and Andy had it. So this is why you guys work together well, and me and Andy work together well. You have to have a yin and yang. Yin and yang. There you go. And Andy would have done this. And hence the reason right in the beginning I said, I did not choose any of this, which kind of eliminated the conversation of anything going there. But this is a great pick for the reasons you said. I just don't like playing on there. For most of my life, having a computer, I never had a controller USB to go and play with. Playing on a keyboard threw me way off. Thomas, one of the young men that has been on the show, he actually lived here. He is a Twitch computer gamer. Yeah. Like he plays so many games. Like he's super good at all those things, Yeah. And he'll sit in his room all day and play on the computer with the keyboard and all these other attachments. And the games are great. The graphics are phenomenal. The Steam, the download from Steam that you can go and get all that is really great. But for me, it just never was something that was going to impact me or be an impact, even going forward. I had an Alienware computer that someone gave it to me, and nice. It was like a freaking really huge paperweight. Like I didn't use it that much. And it was very expensive and ended up breaking eventually. But yeah, it's computer gaming is mega large, and it definitely deserves.
There are a massive amount of people that are exclusively PC gaming only. Yeah. So that's another reason why I think it should count, because
yeah.
PC, I get it.
We'll allow it. Well, we're there.
I'm on the team. I'm on that team, and it came off my Benjamins. Look, people swear by it though. If you're a PC gamer, this might be the most
it's a no-brainer.
Like
this is the Apple
fan base of a
Android conversation.
This is one of those things. So I specifically, I'll say this. Going back to PlayStation, I believe there was a game I didn't mention on there, but I played it a lot I had a computer version of it called Driver. And not just Driver like you're downloading, but like it was called Driver, and it was cool because you're in a car the whole time, but it's not a racing game. Like you're literally going around town, like completing missions in your car, and like part of it is like driving the speed limit. You're like, what the world? What are we doing here? And not getting pulled over by the cops. And I would put all these cheat codes.
It's normal taxi.
So there you go. Gateway. Look at you. The second week in a row, you're pulling out the old Gateway software storage.
And there's some games that I have in here. Jedi Knight.
Some of those old DOS games are fun.
A little wrestling.
We talked about the show talking about a Western. And what about Oregon Trail? Come on.
There you go.
You could die of dysentery in that game.
Lords of Magic. That was great. Yeah, but not that game. That game's
what's funny, Kirk, is so I was going through my storage shed the last week during Memorial Day weekend, and I found like a thing like that, which a bunch of CDs of PC games I knew I had somewhere, but I couldn't figure out where it was. And in that was none other than The Sims on PC. So it made me think of last week when you guys are covered.
Ask me for The Sims. I love that
GameCube. I had no idea Sims was on GameCube, but.
And I said I like Sim City, which is also a banging game on Super Nintendo.
Well, I never played the Sim City on Super Nintendo. I played Sim City 2000 on.
Which I have on PlayStation right over there.
Okay, nice. I
PlayStation
prefer
1.
that kind
The
of
computer, Sim Farm back in the day. Come on, people.
I never played Sim Farm. Sim Tower, though. I love Sim Tower.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
My wife got me into Roller Coaster Tycoon. That's a really good one.
Super fun game. Look, you're
great choice. Look, you've been validated, Paul. You've been validated.
I don't validate it, but okay.
I just spent the past 2 minutes validating it.
Francisco.
Yes.
What's your George? What's the best video game console ever?
Well,
that's not a computer.
I think I'm Rushmore in 2 of you because it is the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it is.
And see, look, mine isn't yellow at all. It's also
how
shrunk,
small is that?
This is the SNES Mini, if you're not aware.
Yes.
That came out in like 20.
He says very large hands. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a giant.
Yeah, too bad the games won't fit in it.
Here's an N64 game. Here is a SNES Mini for comparison.
Wow.
Which is so funny that all those games fit in there and they still have more room for even more games to get in there.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, the SNES, I feel like has like it's already been said, so I'll just like go over it quick. But one of the widest library of amazing games, so many great RPGs. I want to give some love to Chrono Trigger, which we covered on our podcast recently. Such an amazing game. Super Mario World has so many cool. It just, I mean, the phrase "you're playing with power, superpower" is really right because so much. I feel like Super Nintendo and N64, Nintendo was still in this place where they're willing to take chances on games. I think they've continued to take chances on hardware, but I think they've gotten more and more safe with the games they're releasing. Mm-hmm. I think Super Nintendo and N64, they're still taking chances, like Blast Corps for the N64. That's a crazy game. And then for you got like Pilot Wings on the SNES. You have the standard like Super Mario World, Link to the Past, all that. You also have Mega Man, like there's pluses from like Mega Man to Mega Man X, which again, sure, so awesome. The Street Fighter 2 is so great. There's this so much, and then you get things like Star Fox with the FX chip. Uniracers is a wacky game. You guys mentioned sports games till the cows come home, but Looney Tunes B-Ball, like that Paul mentioned earlier, such a fantastic. That's like my favorite basketball game ever. I love Looney Tunes B-Ball. I wish I could play it now. There's just so much on there that the Super Nintendo and the music in so many of the games is so nostalgic and it's still good. I never watched it, but there's this YouTube video that will be recommended to me every so often where it's this like guy playing piano in a mall and this old guy's like, is that Bach? But it's actually like Legend of Zelda. It's like there's so much goodness that comes from the SNES library of games that has to be my George for my
mind. So I was just playing another really good strategy sim game. When we logged in, I was playing Lost Vikings. I don't know if you played that.
I've played that.
Dude,
I know
love that game. Love that game. Harvest Moon. What about Mario Paint?
Mario Paint.
Mario Paint.
Had that. That was really interesting.
I loved playing with the music when making all the going all around. And then the Fly Swan game, obviously. But, they mentioned the Donkey Kongs, the Mega Mans. They took all the other franchises, the Castlevanias, and made them better. Kirby, were good on Super Nintendo. Yeah. Chrono Trigger, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to mention that. But all the Final Fantasies, I mean, apparently there's 783 original titles without homebrews or other things that they may be doing. 783 is what it's the number here. 1990. So 1990. I was 7th grade, and so this is my childhood, right? So
we want to talk about an obscure SNES game. I love this game, and I'm going to say it, and we're all going to know it. Booger Man. What about
Booger Man?
You know of it, but I never played it.
It was so crazy.
I love that game.
Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim.
I thought Earthworm Jim was just on Sega Genesis.
It was
Did it come to
No,
Super
it was on both. A lot of it was on both.
Did
you ever play? Talk about for those people who are like pixel graphics, cartoony graphics, check out Back to the Future 2. It's a Japanese game. Didn't come out in the US.
Oh, really?
It has some cool 16-bit graphic characters.
Now look, one of the things I was just telling you, I was getting ready for my Super Nintendo and I was playing Lion King. And gosh, it got to be one of the
Do you hate yourself, Kirk? Is that what it is?
Well, I was trying to figure out why it's so hard. I was just like, I
go to the waterfalls.
Yeah.
Well, there is a pattern.
I couldn't even make it to the waterfalls. I couldn't make it there yet. I couldn't make it there.
I love scrolling through this stuff. The Jurassic Park game, I loved that game, and then also Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
That's a fantastic
I
game.
never played that one. I've heard of it. But
Zombies Ate My Neighbors is one of the dude. If we do an obscure list, it probably makes the list. It's a phenomenal game.
For sure.
You're like cutting through the hedges and stuff.
Speaking of obscure, did you guys the SNES had some great attachments? Did you guys ever play with the bazooka attachment?
The Super Scope?
The Super Scope, yes. It was not very good. I thought the Zapper was way better, but
that's what I heard.
I was expecting the eye hole thing to have some magnification. No, you can't. If you're looking through that as CRT, you can't see anything. It's no.
So the only thing is, I didn't have any shooting games for Super Nintendo, so I never had it. All right, man. So it is my turn, and gosh, I'm crushing again. I knew this was going to happen. So I'm crushing with Andy. The best video game system of all time is the PlayStation 2.
Nice.
Number 2. And it just is. I mean, that whole top row is all games. The ones that are missing, then why they're all falling over because they're in my hand. Right.
Yeah.
So the Final Fantasies, taking it to another level. Look, we're just Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts. Oh, you mentioned earlier, nobody mentioned Metal Gear Solid because these are the better ones right here. Right here, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. You talked about Grand Theft Auto earlier. There it is. Don't play that one anymore. That one's not very Jesus-like. But speaking of gods, God of War, Dragon Warrior, which is now Dragon Quest. This game, underrated. This game was so cool, so calm. You actually had like a headset.
And
you were like assassin Navy SEALs, and you're like
the
over there. Your guy
Call
would
of
run
Duty,
over there. Oh my gosh. PlayStation 2, hands down, best library, best graphics for a retro game, in my opinion. You mentioned the PlayStation. It almost didn't make my list because of the graphics, Paul. But it was just so nostalgic for me, and that flipped the switch. Wow, flip the switch off the But this one, hands down, I could give away all my video game systems and whatever. No, I would never get rid of the PS2. The only negative thing for me about a PS2 is I've had about 15 of them because they weren't built very well. I played them so much, they
like
would
the original
break.
Xbox.
Yeah, they would. For some reason, they would just break, and I would get one. Now I have the slim version, which is down there, down right there. But to me, it's the best system. There's so many memories playing with that DualShock controller. So obviously, I've got 2 Nintendo, 2 PlayStation. I'm a PlayStation guy. As far as the Xbox and the PlayStation contest goes, and Ezra mentioned that last week, I'm the PlayStation side all day, every day. I would own a 3, I would own a 4, I would own a 5, but I have a wife, and so
and a 2.
I cannot have that. So I only have the 2. I don't even have a 1 anymore. So PlayStation 2 for me is video games to me, man. It's my favorite.
I love it.
Cool.
So this was my late high school, college years when I was rocking this. Like I said earlier, failed the mini classes because of Sony's PlayStation 2. You mentioned it all. It's great stuff. But it's funny, you mentioned you own a PS3. We just merged church campuses with another church locally here. And what we inherited with their stuff was a couple video game systems, and one of which was a PS3. So I'm excited to pick that sucker up. The only game that they have is Sonic Adventures Racing or something like that.
Oh, So we were talking about Iraq a little while ago, and not that we were, I was. And when I was in Iraq,
remember when we were talking about Iraq earlier, guys?
Yeah.
Remember Iraq, guys?
Yeah. When I was in Iraq for 8 months, we were able to go down to the BX and rent, or just check out, if you will, some video games. And they only had a PlayStation 2 and they had an Xbox 360.
Nice.
I got the PlayStation 2 and it came with a milk crate full of games.
Wow.
And we played the breaks off of Tiger Woods Golf.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we played the breaks off of that PS2 Tiger Woods Golf game. And as well as Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. That was like the three we were always playing. But we had so many cool games. You mentioned Gran Turismo. It's right over there. Need for Speed, Resident Evil, Parasite Eve, Xenosaga. I mean, there's game after game after game. The cool one is the McFarlane game. That one's pretty fun. You play like Frankenstein and stuff. Man, I could go on and on. PS2. We can make a whole show, and we are going to do that shortly. But
you're gonna wait.
Yeah, my George, Andrew, you're up, man. Finish off this mountain.
Well, yeah, it's obvious.
I'm on the edge of my seat 2 weeks in a row for your George.
My number one video game system of all time. Again, Rushmores are personal, right? But my number one is the Nintendo 64. There is no doubt about it. It is my number one. It's the one I own right now. So here you go. I have a green screen, so this is not what this looks like. But Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, then Banjo-Tooie is rocking with that. Star Fox 64. We said pause music earlier. I'm going to up it with 007. The pause music, no reason to be that good. Going back to last year, talking about, we did have an episode of N64 games. My George of N64 games, Mario Kart 64. This is
since '92, baby.
Listen, this game, and what's fun about this, one of the things that's fun, my daughter, my oldest, is 9, and she has an interest in this, and we jokingly mentioned, like, okay, the controller is probably not the best design controller, but when you grew up playing it, you got used to it. Like, it just became normal. So, like, even picking it up now, we were just at we were just at,
speaking of that, we were at,
and that's where I got my N64 from David Finn, who's a friend of the show. He sold me an N64 with 3 games, and my wife is not a big fan of David Finn right now for that. But I play when I can. I have a newborn, so it's tough to find a bunch of time to play these games. But what I was saying, my daughter, 9-year-old, she has a huge interest in learning Mario Kart 64. And one of the reasons, Francisco, that you said is the 4-port controller.
Yes.
That you can play this. We talking about Mario Kart 64. The racing is fun, but the battle mode.
The battle is the best on the
That's
64.
the best part to me of this game.
Yeah.
It's so fun, dude. The music that's in these games. This is it. Look, I'm born 1989. So this video game system, 97, 98-ish is when this is coming out. I'm 9, 10 years old. This is where I'm at. This is like everyone else's SNES or NES or whatever. This was where I lived my life. I have so many memories of the N64, of playing this game. This is the pinnacle. Nothing will beat it for me. And what's cool, and I said in my criteria that I have to want to go back to play it. Obviously, this is the one system I still own, or I re-own now. And it's another thing where it's like, I recently getting these games, I go back and I'm like, okay, the graphics aren't as great as I remember, but they're really good for that time. Like, playing, so to me, one of the most underrated, which is actually was one of the more expensive ones, was the Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie games that I bought. But this whole open world side quest idea, happening on the 64, was a super cool thing, man. There's a ton of games that I have on my list of games that I need to collect again. We talk about a lot of great
Gauntlet Legends.
Gauntlet Legends, you keep saying that. Maybe I'll get it just to appease you. We did share this story last week. I got this when Kirk was in town. We played a little bit of GoldenEye 007 multiplayer, and
nice.
He is not good at that. Admittedly, he is not good at first-person shooting.
Me neither.
So
I'm terrible. I am the guy that's always looking up here. I'm like,
You're supposed to be looking at the other guy's screen.
That was the other thing. You say that too. It's like, it's funny. Like, nowadays kids are playing and they can play in different countries, right? Like together, online capability. Back in the day, multiplayer was like you were in the same room. That was
Don't look at my screen.
like whatever. Yeah, and especially when you start adding the fourth player and it's split this way, you're like right up here on your screen. Which one am I?
Yeah,
but dude, I could talk about this. We had a whole episode on this before. This is my favorite game system.
Now, Andy, I can't wait to come back home, or you come here next time. I'm going to bring, if I come home, which it can't be for camp, but I'll bring the RetroPie with me.
Yes.
And on the RetroPie, which Cannon's playing, by the way, my retro guys, here's the book that he's going through. So
cool.
The Essential Guide of Retro Gaming, and we're going to play every single game that's in this list.
Nice.
Here. Pac-Man started off, but in the gaming system is 285, I think, Nintendo 64 games.
Wow.
So they're all there ready for you to be played, Andy. You can pick which ones you want to go purchase for your own self.
I know. I'm going to purchase all 285 of them. I know that.
Is StarCraft 64 in there?
Oh yeah, it's there.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I'll have to log into that here in a second.
There's so many good ones. Like we talk about, so Mario Kart racing is great, but Diddy Kong racing is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Turok 2.
Ocarina of Time, Super Smash Brothers Melee, right? We talked about it last week, but DK64. Again, I told you I like Pokemon Stadium. I want the one other game I want to get for my kid, and again, it was super fun. It's kind of a off the wall type of game, but Pokemon Snap, when you would go just take pictures of the Pokemon.
Well, now you lost me, Andy. Sorry.
I loved it, dude. I love
Snap.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and then NFL Blitz, man. NFL Blitz for the N60, dude. I could go on for days. I love this. I love the N64. It's my George. It's the number one.
Nice.
And you know what's great about all your Georges is that my George can play them all.
Yeah.
How though, Paul?
There's emulators.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we have finished our mountains, guys, and it is time to jump into what I think might be one of the hardest Benjamin rows coming up, because a lot of what we said can't be mentioned, and so that leaves some slim pickings for some of us, right? And so, Andy, I don't know where you're going to go, man. I know a couple of where you're going to go. So, but let's get into our Benjamins of video game consoles. Let's get it. All right, guys, if you're new to the show, it is time for our Benjamins. Benjamins are honorable mentions because Benjamin Franklin was, in some circles, thought to be maybe the next guy to be carved into the mountain. So now, instead of it being all about our top four, it's about our top 5, 1, 6, and 7, and 8. And so we're going to go through our next 16. We're going to go through 4 more. Everybody is going to go. We cannot have any Crushmores. We Crushmored enough in our first segment. This is no Crushmore, and it is a bit of a game, if you will. There's a game afoot, and the good thing is we're going to go in the same order, but it is a snake draft, kind of fantasy football style. Francisco, you're going to go first. It will wrap all the way back down, but second round, it goes backwards, and third the other way, and fourth back. See, those guys at the end get some double picks. So
Paul gets to go first.
I think Paul gets to go first since he went first throughout the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. I was, yep. Paul, you got first. I tried to.
No, I get it. Because he chose the PC, he's being knocked down. I'll go for it. Yeah.
He got penalized.
You know what? I'll take
Paul,
that.
Paul,
handicap.
you are your first. You're Paul, you are first. You're first.
Okay.
So your first Benjamin is...
My first Benjamin would have been my number 5. You mentioned the Nintendo DS, but this is specifically the Nintendo DS Lite. And that's because I had this. There was a particular version that if you did not do the software update, you could play the homebrew games and emulators on it. And I had all the Game Boy Advance, not all of them, but I had my Game Boy Advance games that I had owned earlier, my Game Boy games, my NES games. I could play with them, and it was portable. So that was specifically my number 5. You guys took a lot of mine already, so I But what hasn't been said yet is the Sega Genesis.
Wait. No, you're just gonna go one.
You only get one. You get
I
two
thought we
on
did
the way
4.
back.
You do
Well,
4,
you're gonna
but
one.
We're
We're
drafting,
gonna back on.
Paul.
Sorry.
So now it's Francisco.
Go ahead, take mine.
I'm very tempted too, but I don't want mine to be taken, and that's the
Okay.
Sega Dreamcast.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
So I wanted this to be on my mountain so much, but because it just had such a short lifespan, it was more of a nostalgic pick for me than anything. But man, you guys mentioned Marvel vs. Capcom last week on your GameCube episode. I'm sorry, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is so much better, and the picks to have is Ken, not this Ryu stuff.
Ryu for the win.
It's Ken.
No.
And
Well, let me also just say
Spider-Man
this.
and Gaia.
We forced Ezra into that. Ezra really wanted us to do the Dreamcast last week and not GameCube.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they both somehow or another we landed on GameCube. It was originally going to be Dreamcast, so he chose that game knowing probably that he was going to play it on the Dreamcast. But
That's fair.
yeah, that's a good pick, and I like Ken. He's just not nearly as superior as.
What's funny is that you
As
two
Ryu.
are dressed the opposite. Like you have the red and the gray.
Yeah, there you go. So I am also tempted to take it, but I am not, because I'm going to take what I would be next on my list, which leaves Andy the Genesis, because whatever. But I'm going to go with the Nintendo Wii, which to me is I'm going with the Nintendo Wii because it's Nintendo and Andy can't have it. And 2, it is my favorite family game system that I've had, which led us to getting the Switch. Freaking Wii Sports, playing tennis. I've had hours and hours and hours of time playing that with my wife. She doesn't play a lot of video games. She loves the Wii. When I mentioned that we were doing it, she said, well, you're going to put the Wii on, right? And I said, yeah, if you were on the show, you could do it. But it's going to probably be on my Benjamins. And I don't know if I'll be able to. I didn't know it was going to be here. But the Nintendo Wii, for all that technology and all those things, man, we could go on. But Andy.
Yeah, you took it. I knew it. So he forced my hand, Paul. He did.
Woohoo! Go for it.
But I'm not going to.
Well, you get 2 picks.
I do. So I'm going to go with what we talked about last week. The GameCube is going to be up there for me. I love the GameCube. I love the tiny little discs that you put in there. Everything. Again, go back to last week and you'll hear everything about we love about GameCube. So that's my first pick. And then I listen, this was up there for me. And I'm not taking it because you did, but I would have gone Wii here and the Genesis would have made it back to you. But I'm going Sega Genesis.
Nice pick.
This is Sonic, all of these games that we would play back here. The Batman game on Sega Genesis.
Great graphics.
All of these, just great games. Anyway, Sega Genesis.
Most of the fighting games, this is where it started to get good. Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, all those started there.
Killer Instinct's on the SNES.
Let me
This I think was before, but I could be mistaken. Or at the same time, at least.
The Mortal Kombat on Genesis had blood, and the one on
That's true.
Play Fighters. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Play Fighters is on
so cool.
SNES, but okay.
All right, my turn. I'm gonna go with the Xbox 360. I'm going with the Xbox 360, which is right back here. I have a great little library of games there, the Halos, the whatever. It's not the original one, but the Xbox 360 I think improved on all the original stuff. That it would be my second pick, the Xbox 360.
I'm gonna go with actually the Sega Saturn.
Ooh, take that off my list.
Really,
Actually, all these are off my list.
Just for one game.
Oh.
So this goes back again to when me and Paul were roommates. I decided, you know what? There's this one game I always wanted. I just ever since I saw it in like a electronic game monthly or something, I was like, I want to play this game so badly.
It shall be mine. Oh
It's-
yes, it shall.
But this is when I was a kid. So this is now fast forward to college, and it's a game called Dragon Force. It's a tactical strategy game. The thing about that was so compelling to me which was different from a game like Ogre Battle on the SNES, was that you essentially got to see your army of like 100 units face off against an army of another 100 units, or maybe it's 50 and 50, but just like hundreds or 100 units on the field at once, clashing together, seeing that many pixel sprites on the screen at once. Just it sent my tactical heart aflutter.
All right, I'm gonna go with an older, obscure, because it was so expensive back in the day. I didn't own it. I played it a little, but it's the Neo Geo.
Ooh, I didn't think somebody was going to take that. That's a good pick.
This played the Neo Geo games at the time, like Metal Slug and some of the fighting games.
Talk about difficult
fighters, I think.
So that's my next pick. And then I already mentioned before, but the Atari 2600. I loved it as a kid. I mean, there are some games that are just, you don't want to waste 10 seconds on it. But some of the other ones, like Pac-Man, it's a port, it'll do. But there are some other fun ones on there, like Asteroids and Pitfall. Some of these games you will never beat because they're unbeatable. Like Asteroids, I flipped the score, but that's about as much as you can do on those. But some of those old school classic arcade imports are kind of fun on there.
For me, I'm going to go with the Game Gear. You guys thought batteries in the Game Boy was better. Get a Game Gear.
Yeah, that would have lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
but yeah, you could buy a TV tuner attachment. You could watch TV. My brother had that, but it had the best game I remember on that was a game called Crystal Warriors. Is half tactical, half RPG. Is like, if you think of Advance Wars, it's similar to that, except you have one fighter with you have several fighters with different magical abilities versus another group, and you're trying to take their control point. But it's Crystal Warriors. I love that game. Real quick, just for my brothers, Shakan, the Shadow Man. Okay. That's it.
So I'm going to go with, you all left it out there. I'm going to go with the other Xbox, the brick, the death
original?
of the original Ring of Death. Right? How many of those did you ever own if you had a Xbox? But the original Halo, I'm looking over here, Halo 1, Halo 2, that suffering game that I was talking about the last week, which it didn't make the show, but it's one of the scariest games I ever played in my life. Original Xbox.
All right, I've got my final two to pick here, and literally you've left me with two, so I have to pick these two. Maybe these next two picks may be cheating, but this is technically a different console. I'm going to go with the Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Color. I didn't the Game Boy as the original, but specifically, I had the Game Boy like Pokemon Edition, the yellow one with the Pokeball for the power light and everything. So Pokemon Color just basically was slimmer, and now you weren't looking at this black and white-ish screen. And then my final one. This is inspired by Paul, because Paul, you brought out PC, and I'm going to probably get hate for this one. Maybe this is a console, maybe it's not. Maybe it comes by a different name, but I'm going to go very specific. I'm going to the arcade, and I'm going to pick Wave Runner from the arcade, because sitting on the jet ski, I'm going to call it a console, and I don't care because I don't have it on my list. You
can't play multiple games. How is it at all a console?
It is
this guy.
You should have picked and holds together this game, and I don't know.
You can pick different people, so it's like a different game.
Yeah, there's different levels,
different tracks. It's a whole different game.
Yeah.
This is what your pick wrought, Paul. I hope you're happy.
No,
nice.
You know what?
That's hilarious.
You could have picked the Neo Geo Play like 4 or Play
Arcade,
10 because that's multiple games. Yeah.
It's fine. It's okay. I'm used to getting hate on this show. Like I like pick last week and different things. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I know it's not a console, but I have nothing else. So there we go. Took everything.
Yeah.
Took
All right.
everything.
Well, and there's 3 that need to be named. I have 2 potentials. All right. So I'm gonna go with, without naming any of the newer systems because I haven't had any of those. I'm gonna go with Bonk. I'm gonna go with TurboGrafx 16.
man.
I'm gonna go with the TurboGrafx 16. Yeah.
Mine too.
Yep. All right. So that leaves.
Adventure Island boy.
Yeah.
So
I'm an
back to-
island boy.
I'm an island boy.
Adventure
So back to
Island was
me.
a fun game. All right. So last two.
All right. So obviously the Super Famicom, because it has such a great library of games.
Almost did that. I almost did that.
Hey, if
The
Andy can
Super
pick a
Famicom.
wave race game, I can pick the same system.
Go for
in a
it. Go
different
for it.
language.
There's no rules anymore. There's just no.
Oh my God.
It's gone.
No, in more seriousness, I'm going to pick the Master System, the Sega Master System.
That was the other one I was going for. But so that
Because-
leaves Paul with all the obscure stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Francisco. You leave me with
That's
ColecoVision.
Or
Atari.
the Vectrex, or the.
Oh yeah, that's on here too. They got the
Spectrum.
Vectrex and the Colecos on these too. Yep.
I was gonna go with Nintendo Wii U. I don't know why it gets a lot of hate. It has it plays all the Wii, and there's even more games. So I liked it. I mean, I never owned it. I was jealous of the people that did. So
I'm gonna be honest. This is a huge blind spot for me. I never got it. Like it was in this time of my life when that came out that I was trying to be in recovery, or I was an addict, or going in all that, and I wasn't really playing games. And then by the time I was kind of looking into it again, it had already kind of been gone. So
Yeah.
I just don't know a whole ton. I haven't played it. But that's great pick. Great pick. Well, so look, we finished the mountain. We actually survived with our Benjamins. I thought this was going to be a tough one because most of us are going to live prior to 2006, right? Because all the new ones. But man, what a great episode. Thank you guys for coming on and visiting us again. We'd love to have you down the road. Obviously, I totally enjoy watching what you guys do as creators. You are inspirations to us, as well as just good friends that I love being a part of your community, and thank you for being a part of ours. I really appreciate you taking a little bit of time out to come and spend with us all the way across the country, right? So, Andy, you reminded me, we are going to be at Louisiana Retro Games in September. We're going to have we are going back to the Collectors Con, which I forgot to mention last week, in the fall. Next March, we're invited to Coast Con, and BJ Bergeron has invited us to be a part of his gaming convention as well, which he's supposed to be sending information. So that's 4 different cons in the fall and spring that we're looking to possibly go and spend time at. But man, talking about video games, we're going to see so many games there. Your wife is going to be so mad, the collection you build of 64 games. But man, it's been a great show, man. And I think it's time to bid everybody adieu. I've got video games to play, and and it's time to get moving.
Yeah, I actually have to get back and return this to Blockbuster. Again, echoing everything Kirk said, thank you guys for joining us today. We look forward to the rest of Zoom into June. We've got some awesome topics that are coming up. Kirk, what are we going to do?
You guys ever need us for your show, we're ready. Andy.
Yes.
Tell everybody bye.
This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4.
Top 4.
And nothing, a little bit more.
Nothing, maybe a little more.
Just a little bit more.
Totally botched
Just
that.
a little bit more.
Peace. Nah, it was perfect.